Welcome to Give It a Nudge. Today we have a guest I have been super looking forward to coming on. Alex Kerr joins us today from Kumo, which is a platform to help students, particularly with ADHD and other forms of neurodiversity, learn to study in a more effective way. Being someone who's been affected by these things, we can call them, I'm so excited to learn more about this and what's been going on with you. I've been reading about you in the media a bit, so even more excited to learn about your journey. So welcome to the show, Alex.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to discuss all things ADHD and neurodiversity.
All things ADHD, I love it.
Everything, there's a lot.
Well, that in itself, it should be all sorts of things, right? Non-stop talking.
Yeah, exactly. No flow, just chaos.
So before we go into sort of your history, give us your quick elevator pitch of Kumo. How would you describe it?
Yeah, so essentially we're digitising occupational therapy techniques to build out a study and learning tool for students with ADHD. And so really being that external source of executive functioning for university students.
It's super cool. I think that, as I mentioned to you before the show, I've got a son with the same wonderful traits as myself.
Yeah.
And the difference for him was that really young age at his school he's at, probably maybe year 2, they have OTs on staff. And so,
wow.
I know, amazing. I mean, he's a great school, and that made such a difference to his school journey because it was identified early and he was given ways to deal with it early, but more importantly, it was done in the school.
Yeah.
So that made him feel much more normal as opposed to removing him and sending him to somewhere else, which then makes that person feel abnormal or different, which children hate particularly. And I think most adults hate, but even more so. But it's just amazing the work that's already happening in this. And now digitising it, well, that was the next step. So you are the one to do that. So well done. But before we get into that, let's sort of go back into your history. I had a little look at your LinkedIn profile, but not too much. So I'm intrigued to hear how you ended up here. And I'm always intrigued to hear how you end up being a founder because it's different for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's quite funny because the whole Kumo journey started off with another idea. So I came out of university. I was someone who had the quite typical trajectory of having ADHD, being a woman, kind of flying through school, under the radar, and kind of realizing at uni when everything fell apart that it was, something that might be going on with my brain. And I started off with another idea because I thought uni is way too hard. It's harder than it should be. All my friends are doing great and sailing through. And I thought it was kind of to do with the technology and the study tools that I was using, and that wasn't streamlined enough and keeping me engaged. And it wasn't until I built out Kumo, not targeting at ADHD students at all, that a customer came to me and said, hey, this has really helped my ADHD. And it just clicked for me. It just went, oh my gosh, this is why I'm doing this, because I'm servicing my needs of having ADHD, just not even thinking that that was the actual root of the problem. And then, diving into that demographic and working with universities and realizing that this is such a pain point that is so deep and so painful for this target demographic that it kind of flourished.
So you did this for yourself?
Yeah. It was, something that, just talking to the community of students that I was around at the time, myself and, some of my friends who also did turn out to have ADHD, that's why it worked.
It's more prevalent than people
organic.
think. I want to wheel back a tiny bit there.
Yeah.
Fell apart. Define fell apart. When you say it all fell apart, give me some sort of, I want to give the audience an idea of what that, not necessarily what that feels like because that's impossible, but how you define that.
Yeah, so like I said, kind of sailed through school, did really well in the HSC, had no kind of issues. I remember when I first got to uni, it was one of my first papers, I just missed the deadline. It just fell out of my brain. It was the first time that had ever happened to me, and I failed that.
Why do you think that was? Why do you think, if you've never missed a deadline before, and they're not quite the same as school, school's obviously a lot more structured, but was it that lack of structure? Is that the reason?
I think it was. It was that newfound independence and that demand on your independence and those executive functioning skills that I think, you don't even expect it because you've had your parents and your teachers surrounding you all the time, keeping you on track. The HSC is chopped down into the syllabus that is essentially like a to-do list that you're ticking off throughout the year. And you've got people around you. I went to a school that was run like a business, and so they need good grades to get students. And so it's that ecosystem of going to that school was perfect for ADHD because it's a competition. You don't get a mark, you get a rank. And and then I went to uni and was failing papers and missing classes, and then also papers that I wasn't particularly interested in, but we had to do as a part of, I did commerce, the commerce umbrella. I wouldn't show up to class sometimes, and it was and then I realized that when I actually had to kind of dive a bit deeper and set up some systems to keep myself on track, that it was a bigger problem.
How did it feel to go from being essentially, a top performer in a competitive environment that you obviously enjoyed to suddenly no structure, freedom? You would have loved that.
Yeah.
But then realizing that you're failing at all these things that you've never failed at before, that would have been like a shock.
Yeah, definitely. It's they call it a shame spiral in the ADHD.
A shame spiral?
Yeah, it sounds a bit grim, doesn't it? Yeah.
Such a bad name.
It sounds very grim, but you kind of get really nervous to ask for help, and you...
Of course, because you're not used to it, right?
Yeah, exactly, and you don't even know where to go, and you don't actually know what's going on with your brain, and that's something that we really want to do with Kumo, is push the awareness and these kind of key symptoms around your executive functioning that could be ADHD, it could be a bigger problem. So you kind of get really nervous to ask for help, and you kind of rely on just watching your other friends study and that kind of external source of executive functioning again to kind of build these coping mechanisms back up.
So talk to me about how you start. So obviously you're failing, you're not in a great place, you're in a shame spiral. God, I can't believe they call it that. What do you think made you so, and how did you do that? Like obviously you didn't build software to start off with. So how did it sort of begin?
Well, it does get a little bit easier when you start choosing papers that you're more interested in.
Of course.
So you can kind of, get a little bit more niche into what you are wanting to do. I really worked out that I was a bit more of a night owl at university, and I think so I started, instead of bartending at night when, as my part-time job, I started nannying and doing like morning nannying so that I could study into the night. So that was kind of one thing, of being a little bit more cognizant of when you're most productive.
It's great self-awareness.
Yeah,
when you're in a bad place to be able to pull yourself out. That's great.
Yeah. And university is good because you are up all night, like just with your friends. Everyone's kind of night owls at uni. But that kind of having that understanding and being aware. I guess as well, how being aware of what they use in the occupational therapy industry is setting up your sensory profile. So do you need background music? Do you need to sit with someone who's a lot more kind of studious than you? Can they keep you on track? Do you study well in your bedroom alone, dark light, dark mode on your computer, or do you need a busy cafe hustling and buzzing around you to kind of stay focused on what you need to do? So it's almost like setting up your environment over then as well what you need to do for study. So I think first start up with your environment.
I'm only just working this environment thing out. I think I always knew, right? I like noise. I need noise around. I need music.
Yeah.
I've actually just moved to lo-fi music, which has changed my life.
Yeah.
So now I've worked out, depending on the kind of work that I'm doing, I know which kind of music I need. Because sometimes lo-fi, I just go, oh my God, I've got through so much work.
Yeah.
Other times I'm like, this lo-fi is really annoying me. I need something more upbeat. So I'm working out the kind of work, the kind of music. This is like at the age of 50.
Yeah.
Which is a little late. But it's fascinating that you were working this all out sort of back then already. Thinking about the actual environment. When you were studying, did you live on campus or were you living at home?
Yeah, so I went to uni in New Zealand, and so we all lived on campus, which was awesome.
So when you said that everyone stays up at night, I think that because obviously being British, no one stays home. Everyone goes as far away in the country as possible.
Yeah.
But here in Australia, I've noticed since I've lived here, and my children are about to get to university age, they all want to live at home. Which is a completely different environment in terms of you went from your home school environment to uni, which is freedom beyond.
Yes.
But most Australians, they stay at home. So they're almost replicating the school environment to some degree. Yeah,
absolutely. I think as well, in Australia, it does seem to be a little bit more individual, a little bit, you're kind of, it is highly competitive. I've noticed over here. In New Zealand it is as well, but most students do move out and go live on campus away from their kind of hometown.
Yeah.
Here, I think, talking to students kind of over the past year, it does seem to be a little bit more kind of you're still living at home.
Yeah,
you've
it's
still
interesting,
kind of got
isn't
your
it?
parents a little bit more.
Couldn't wait to get away.
Yeah, same. Out
So
of there.
bizarre.
Yeah.
I was hoping my children were going to do the same. It looks like they're going to stay.
I mean, I guess it's just too expensive here, isn't it? Go
Well,
to
there
New
is that,
Zealand
yeah.
if you're.
There is that. Yeah, or
Yeah.
go to the UK, go to New Zealand.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the on-campus rates at the universities in England are not expensive, and I think they were always set up that way. Like they have
Yeah.
huge halls of residence. They don't necessarily
Yeah.
have that here.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think that's probably part of the difference.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think just being aware of yourself, even if you don't have ADHD, like you should be kind of, when you go into university, setting up these systems for yourself anyway and testing what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
All right, so you're building these systems for yourself. As you said, a couple of your friends have asked you or mentioned to you that they... So how did that sort of happen? Did they just say, how are you studying right now? Or did you share it with them? Or how did it sort of begin to sort of creep into other people's lives?
It just started as like talking to my friends about a side hustle. Like
Yep.
I'm building the study tool. I remember, we would all download like a website blocker or a study timer.
Yep.
And the first thing I did with Kumo was just put all of these into one. So we had a bookmarking tool, a citation generator, a study timer, a website blocker, just in one Chrome plugin. And that just streamlined the day a little bit more, and you're not downloading 50 different tools. And that was also when, the student came to me and said, this is awesome for my ADHD because it's all in one.
Do you know the irony and why I'm smiling at the moment?
Yeah.
The fact that you've taken these tools and started putting them all into one place is because of your ADHD. You wouldn't have done that if you didn't have ADHD.
Yeah.
So the irony is the problem you're trying to solve is actually creating the solution with almost subconsciously.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why I've loved it so much, loved every part of this so much.
I can see this. I can
Because
see you love it.
Yeah. I use Kumo every single day. Like it's something that...
So how do you use it now? Because you're not studying.
No, but I'm doing a lot of research on what ADHD is, how to incorporate it into our tool. Neurodesign's a huge part of Kumo. So one of my co-founders, Gabby, she had a background in neuroscience and she's now head of product and she's, designing the usability of this platform. And so we dive into neurodesign and how to keep it engaging. And that's kind of how I use it. I use the study timer a lot. So I'm someone just who's really inattentive. And so I'll chunk down, my day into sets of like 50 minutes of work, 10 minutes of rest and things like that. Website blocker, I block out Netflix and things like that until like after 8 p.m. at night.
Yep.
Yeah, just you can use it in your day-to-day life.
I think I might need to look at this as well. I'm definitely going to show it to my daughter for sure.
Yeah.
So it's not just ADHD, obviously. So let's talk about the product and we'll sort of come back as to how it ended up to where it is now. But I'm interested, what else does the product cover in terms of other neurodiversity? What other things are we sort of looking at and what's to come?
Yeah, so ADHD has a really high comorbidity rate. So if you have ADHD, you're most likely to have dyslexia or dyspraxia or autism spectrum disorder. So that is something that and our roadmap is built into, is to having that kind of all-inclusive education tool. We want to kind of make it that you don't have to worry about what your actual label of neurodiversity is. You know your brain and you can sit down and have a suite of tools and features that you can use at your disposal. So one thing that we have been diving into research on is dyslexia. A lot of students with dyslexia can only read through like a blue or green screen, and that makes it easier for them. So being able to manipulate and distort web pages to make it easier for them to read through. There is a huge aspect of ADHD and autism called a PDA profile. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have.
But it's, pathological demand avoidance. And so as soon as something is on your to-do list or someone tells you to do something that is in a position of authority, your body goes into fight or flight and you see it as a threat. And you don't want to do it. And that's a huge blocker to any sort of productivity and momentum that you're going to have.
I have this very, very strongly.
Yes. So one thing that a customer actually suggested to us, which she uses to get over her PDA profile, is to put your to-do list into like a restaurant menu, and you have your appetizers, which might be like smaller tasks, and then your main, which may be a bigger task. So having features like this that kind of work around your neurodiversity whilst also just helping with your executive functioning and keeping you on track and on task is what we want to build out into.
That's fascinating. I mean, the thing with dyslexia, there's so many types, right?
Exactly.
So one of the things I was trying to explain to actually my wife, who's known me for like 25 years, trying to explain to her that sometimes I can't spell a word, but I've got autocorrect now, and we've got Grammarly, and we've got all these things. But I have to get it at least close for it to correct it. And sometimes it can take me 5 minutes to write a word close enough so that the computer can actually work out what word it is so I can get the correct spelling. And I said, you've got no idea how frustrating that is. I'm sitting here knowing I can't spell it, but can't even get close enough to get it to correct it. Things like that drive people like me nuts. And I think it's very hard for people who don't experience that to understand. So having tools and things, I love the idea of the menu, by the way. I think this is an amazing tool. And anything that can take away frustrations that eat away into my time and annoy the heck out of me would be an amazing tool, not just in study, but in life, but particularly in study. Because obviously the whole purpose of study is to learn. And if you get frustrated, it's very hard to learn.
Exactly. And we kind of use the word flow a lot. So we just want to create flow in someone's day, whether that be through, kind of more admin-y, monotonous tasks like citing tools and things like that, or whether it just be pushing someone into that kind of state of hyper focus and helping them go from having no focus at all and to be able to sit down and finish a task from start to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you go from, okay, these are my study tools, I put them all in one place, you can have a look at that if you want to, little friend, to now having a business?
Just lots and lots of user interviews and trials, I guess. So it's a really hard demographic to build with because the dopamine deficiency in your brain and what ADHD is to its core is a lack of focus. And if you're not interested in something, or if you are really, really interested in something, the novelty wears off fast. And so when we're trying to build this clunky, ugly tool that we're trying to, iterate to suit a customer's needs, we need them to help us and to stay focused. And so it was really fantastic. We have done a few university trials with universities around Australia and New Zealand to work alongside students a lot more closely to iterate the product. And that's essentially been like the past 8 months is just running these 2 or 3 week trials, getting students on the platform and just asking them what they love and hate about it and just building and building and building. We've done a lot of work with occupational therapists as well. So learning about kind of their processes and how they set up a study regime or routine for their students and their clients, I suppose, and just diving into research. I think everything that involves building a startup that's just how it is. And the universities that we've worked with have been phenomenal in helping us. That's kind of allowed us to build out a roadmap of how not only we can service these students with ADHD, but also help them and help their disability departments.
Well, they're a business too, right? They need good results like your school.
And just like since COVID, there's been a nearly 30% steeper annual growth rate of ADHD diagnosis. So there's these university disability departments.
Why is that?
I think there's a bit more awareness on like social media.
You think it's just people are more willing to be diagnosed, whereas it's always been there?
I think so. And I think hybrid learning at uni of this kind of you are setting your own pace of advancement. Like you're having to fully build your own routine from scratch because you can watch that lecture whenever you want. You can do that homework.
Or not watch it.
Yeah, or not watch it, or watch it on 2 times speed. Or And I think it's really causing students to have a look into why they can't set up these routines for themselves as well.
So firstly, actually, did you finish uni?
Yes,
Just wondered. When did you decide to build a tech platform? Because you're not a technology person, are you?
No. So I'm not a tech founder. I did economics and finance at uni. It actually kind of started the year out of uni. So I had a grad job in an accounting firm.
Saw that.
And really struggled to stay focused there, but I love the startup world, which is actually quite ironic because when I entered into the startup world, a lot of founders have ADHD.
I love the startup world too.
I was like, this is my place. Like it's and I just love it. I love being able to be on the front line and talk to customers and build something that is solving a problem for people. You see it every day being a founder, and that's what I love.
And how did you do it? Did you go to a venture studio? Did you hire a tech founder? Did you have a friend? How did you go about the actual execution?
I started off going to Founder Institute. They were really good. It's like a pre-seed accelerator, and they kind of just give you a set of deliverables and a bit of structure, ironically, on how to build a business. And then, but because we're bootstrapping, I kind of danced in and out of like part-time jobs and things like that as well over the past kind of 2 years to help myself like build it. But yeah, did a startup accelerator, just connected with other founders, all gave each other advice. You go to a lot of startup events and things like that. And you just experiment.
There's a lot of startup events now, aren't there? How many
it's
are
actually
there?
awesome. Sydney's awesome in terms
crazy.
of startup. Oh yeah. And you just experiment. That's all it is. You just kind of fail and try again and reach out to people and ask for help as much as you can. And I think it's pretty cool in the startup world as opposed to something like university. Everyone's failing all the time, and so there is no shame in asking for help.
They're also the most. I still find it astounding how startup founders generally least amount of money, least amount of time, least amount of bandwidth, more willing to give you more of that than anyone else in the world. There's I know it sounds a little wanky having this wonderful community, but it genuinely is. Like people, I think everybody feels everyone's pain. And so they're willing to help, and they're willing to take time out of their day to help others. And because it's so reciprocal, I guess it kind of all works out in the end. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think as well, just in the startup community, I think, like you said, we're kind of all keeping an eye on each other and watching each other. And you are willing to just help each other because you know as well you might need that help in return at some stage. And I always say to myself, if I'm feeling really down, like in my head, go to a startup event, just go and whinge with other founders and meet people and have a rant and event, and then you're kind of good to go again.
You can always come here. We're always here. Well, we're ready for the event. So tell me, you bootstrapped so far.
Yeah.
And you're capital raising right now? Is that right?
Yeah, we're kind of about to begin. So we're off the back, like I said, of multiple university trials. We've had really good month-on-month growth. So we officially launched for this ADHD tool in October last year, just off the back of a whole bunch of research. And
that's 6-7 months that's been going now,
And so, right now, basically our pipeline is we want to be ready to go for the academic year next year. So we've got a couple more trials with universities ahead, but there's 3 of us on the Kumo team. There's myself, Gabby, who is our head of product, and then Jack, who is building. He's the CTO. And we just want to speed things up a little bit more. And so we just need like more hands, more human capital, and just to speed things up.
And what's your plan? Is it angels? Is it crowdfunding? Is it VCs? Are you not sure yet? What are your thoughts?
I think, being totally honest with like the state of the raising ecosystem right now, I'd probably go to angels. I think we're probably too early for VCs right now. Kind of having a strategic angels though, like having people that are able to help us build this business and give us some advisory, and especially in the education market, like EdTech's a tough industry to crack, and especially if you're working with these incumbent universities that have really slow sales cycles. So we'd love someone that could come on as an angel but also an advisor.
Have you thought about the universities? A lot of them have funds, right? So it would make a logical sense for them to be involved.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely have actually. The only thing that's difficult is that then a lot of the IP belongs to the university, and so we don't want to just service one. We don't want to just service one university. So we're kind of diving into that research right now.
Well, we have a lot of angels watch this show, so if you've got their ear right now, tell me if I was thinking about investing, why would I invest?
Yeah, so I want to make it known that 1 in 5 people now are neurodiverse. So there is this.
Wow.
Yeah. So
20%, that's nuts.
Yeah, it's huge. And so there is this huge market that is completely underserviced in terms of learning management platforms and information management platforms. And so we are building this tool that, yes, we're starting niche at students with ADHD, but we are building this tool for this pain point that is just so deep, and that students need to be able to close a tangible academic gap between the neurotypical students and neurodiverse students. And so we're starting here, but we've got like a huge roadmap. It's super sector agnostic, and we need some help to build it.
Completely global.
And there is a global medication shortage right now with ADHD. So students are not able to get the medication that they need to suppress some of the symptoms with ADHD. And then there are, on the other side, on that B2B side, there are disability departments that are running under capacity because there are so many new students that are diagnosed that need extra help and accommodations. And so we're really trying to streamline this system to help all stakeholders in this industry.
Do you think that we're also, as a global community, we're on the precipice of AI changing our worlds dramatically, right? We're going to go through what is essentially a revolution.
Yeah.
and no one really knows how that's going to look. But I think the most interesting part is that ultimately everyone's going to have to start learning new things, whatever that might be, right? Because a lot of the things that we know how to do will become automated in the next decade.
Yeah.
So in that time, all of us are going to want to learn new skills at all ages across the entire globe. And if you're saying 20%, and a lot of them might even diagnose, the market there is just
huge, and just underserviced.
Yeah.
Like it's just, and screaming. Like it's a pain point that people are really struggling with. And yeah, to throw a statistic out there, ADHD alone costs the Australian government over $20 billion in the form of like health and wellbeing costs. So it's...
I wonder what that is globally. Do you know? I don't know.
I don't know.
It would be impossible to... You wouldn't even be able to define that, I don't think, globally.
I don't know what it is globally, but in Australia, so in terms of like the wellbeing costs, those psychosocial hazards associated with like burnout and absenteeism, that's nearly $8 billion that it's costing the Australian government. So there needs to be these platforms out there that help keep these people on task and productive. It's so needed. It's awesome to see recently like some kind of to-do lists and more ADHD focused apps come into play, but I think the heart of the pain point comes from university. And
it's also been, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the media about how to-do lists are not good for people with ADHD, really.
No.
So the fact that we've got so many to-do list apps is almost counterproductive.
Well, exactly. That, like you said, so many to-do list apps. Like there's just millions of them, and then you also have that scrap of paper in your car and on your desk. And
I send myself about 60 emails a day.
Do you send them to yourself?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I email myself constantly. If I'm not sitting down at a desk where I can write something down.
Yeah.
And this will make you laugh.
Yeah.
I have 5 books, right?
Okay.
So they're all for different things. Because if I have one book, I can never find anything because my brain is so scattered. So I have 5 books. We've got things written on them, all different colours as well. This is how I feel like a child. So I know where I write things. I know where I can find things. But then throughout the day, I email myself constantly. And I send myself screenshots constantly of things. Otherwise, there's too many things going on in my brain.
Yeah. Oh, the screenshotting thing is an issue. I screenshot everything and take photos of everything. And then it's like, I think my whole camera roll is trip view, like bus timetable screenshots, because I'll like literally look at the time of the bus and just forget instantly. I'm like, oh, what's the time?
I do tend to take pictures of things I need to do that day because I'll often look at my pictures. I don't know why I look at my camera reel so much, but I do.
Yeah.
Maybe because I know I've got pictures in there. Oh, I've got to do that. Yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, exactly.
And then every so often you have to go through and delete them all because there's hundreds of useless photos in there.
Yeah. I think I've got like 35,000 photos
or
something. Yeah, ridiculous. But that was the same at uni, even just taking photos at the board all the time and being like, oh, look at this later.
Yeah, no, I do that too.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's been the hardest thing and what's been the easiest thing in building a business? Because no one knows what it's like to build a business until you build a business.
Yeah.
So what thing has surprised you in terms of, gosh, that was so much harder than I thought it was going to be, and vice versa?
That's a hard question. I think the hardest thing has been having to make decisions all the time, and you never know whether it's going to be right or wrong.
And sometimes you never really find out if it was right or wrong either.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's even more annoying. Yeah. You're like, I don't know if that was because of that, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually so true. Yeah, so you never have that instant feedback of, oh, that was right, like let's follow this path. Yeah. You just, and I think as well, on a more personal level, watching a lot of my friends, like we've been out of uni for a few years now, they're doing really well in their careers. I'm still experimenting with a business that might not work, in the startup world. So that's kind of been really difficult. I think the best part of it though has been just the people I've met along the way, and like just the network that you build has been so fantastic. And meeting both my co-founders has been such a bright light, having these amazing and talented people want to work on an idea that you have. I think that's
cool,
just
isn't it?
So motivating. Yeah. And just being able to work together and bounce ideas off each other is the best.
By the way, the looking at your friends and seeing that they're doing really well in their jobs and then you having no idea what you're doing and whether it's working never goes away. 25
awesome.
Years in, still there.
Okay.
So don't worry about that.
Awesome. Love it.
So yeah, forget about that because that's not going. Get comfortable with that part of it.
Perfect. Awesome. Can't wait. But yeah, I think, just that decision making and having to make decisions really quick as well is something that can be really difficult.
That does get a lot easier.
Okay, cool. Turns into therapy. I'm like,
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're filming your therapy sessions from now on. You can come in every week.
Yeah, awesome. And I think, just cleaning that up as well of if you do make a wrong decision, of like having to problem solve and work it out on the spot of how to clean it up.
I find it easier to admit I've made a wrong decision than I find for someone to tell me I've made the wrong decision. If someone tells me I'm on the wrong decision, like you said, that fight or flight feeling comes on.
Yeah.
If I know I've made the wrong decision, I'm okay with it. So maybe that's, I don't know.
Yeah. I think I can see that. You can the shame spiral maybe
the shame
as well.
spiral. Not the shame spiral.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the shame spiral.
Yeah, it's like the grimmest term ever. We should call it something else. Yeah.
Alex, thank you so much. I think what you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
I love how you ended up in your journey. I think that's super cool and quite atypical, so that's great. For anyone who's interested in the Raise, we'll put some links down in the chat underneath the video, so please reach out to you. Obviously, if anyone else wants to reach out to you, what's the website? And obviously on LinkedIn, you're Alex Kerr with a double R, right?
Yes,
K-E-R-R?
Kerr. And then the website's just kumostudy.com, so KUMO study.com.
Perfect.
Yeah, and LinkedIn's probably the best place to find me.
It's always the best place.
Yeah, always.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I look forward to seeing how you go.
Thanks so much, Steve. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
It was. Thank you so much for watching today. What an interesting topic. I reckon there's a lot of our viewers out there going to be interested in looking at that website, so please do. If you want to reach out to Alex, please go right ahead, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.